Welcome back to the BackPageLead Vidcast, and with his thoughts on the round of footy and what's coming up this weekend, we welcome back Wayne Carey again. How are you, Duck?
Very well, thank you.
You went to the Geelong Collingwood game last Friday, which was a beauty. What were your thoughts about that? Collingwood didn't have that much to be despondent about, did they, given how many good players they had out of the game?
Oh, look, they had some good players out, but I just think it was a great contest. I think it goes to show you that if you match Collingwood in their endeavour and their intensity, that they're beatable. So I think a lot of other sides will take a lot out of that and gain a little bit of confidence. I don't think Collingwood will lose any confidence, but I think other sides will gain a little bit of confidence knowing that they can be beaten. And let's be honest, the Cats deserve to win. They kicked very inaccurately and probably should have won the game, and they did. So I think it's great for the competition.
We have a season.
We have a season, and I think a lot of people wrote the Cats off at the start of the year, Charlie.
They did,
although I didn't. And they're proving to be a very good side. They've got the good players playing well, albeit, but if they get a few key injuries, I mean, like anyone, they'll certainly struggle to replace them. And Ottens is just a big bonus. The fact that he's up early and going, he hasn't had that for a number of years.
Tim Lane, one of our colleagues at BackPageLead, was one who tipped Geelong to miss the final 8, and he thought the Western Bulldogs and Geelong would miss the 8. His rationale was quite sound. He went through the records.
What rationale was that?
Well, the rationale is this. In the last 10 years, there's been an average of 3 changes per year to the final 8 teams. So there's 3 new teams come in every year, and obviously 3 drop out. He figured Geelong were over the hill.
He just picked the wrong side.
Bulldogs might be right.
I don't think so. I think they'll make the 8.
But he had Essendon coming in, which is looking pretty good, and North Melbourne, which is not looking so good. But West Coast is one club we haven't really touched on in the last few weeks, who are doing tremendously well. And Kevin Bartlett on SEN, who did pick Collingwood to go through undefeated, I should say, reckons West Coast are a top 4 side. I mean, have you seen much of them? I've
seen a little bit of West Coast this year, and just been very impressed. I mean, they're 2 key forwards, playing very well. And I think just their pressure. You talk about this, the zoning and the squeeze and all that sort of stuff, and I just think their overall pressure is improved, and they're not as one-dimensional as they once were. I think Bush has got some good assistants under him. Scotty Burns from Collingwood.
Was he new this year?
I think he was new this year.
Yeah.
So, he probably brings a little bit of that philosophy to West Coast. And look, I think they're looking good. They're looking good.
And go from wooden spoon to top 4.
And on the weekend too, with Embley and Kerr going out in the warm-up. I mean, surely you'd think that would throw the side. I mean, your 2 best players, you put Cox into that. But more or less your 2 best players. Embley's been in career best form, and Kerr's coming back to some really good form. I rate him very highly. So for those 2 to drop out in the warm up really upsets the side. So for them to go out and play the way they did was a huge tick.
Amazing. It just shows you how quickly in the modern game sides can go from nowhere. In West Coast case, they were wooden spooners and might finish top 5 or 6. St Kilda conversely gone the other way just as quickly. I mean, how do you go from the wooden spoon?
Well, I think it goes to show you that it doesn't matter who actually plays, if your endeavour and you play your role, and I know it's very boring in hearing that, but if each player plays his role, and let's be honest, you don't get a game in AFL footy generally, unless you're a new side like the Gold Coast Suns, who probably, some of those guys wouldn't get into an established side right now, but they're playing AFL footy. Yeah. But generally, if you play AFL footy, you deserve your spot, and you have the ability to be there. So if you've been given a role and you team orientated and do all that type of stuff, it just goes to show it doesn't matter who you put out on the park. And I think West Coast are proving that. Although their good players are playing well. St Kilda, on the other hand, need to go down Puckle Street and grab a jar of confidence, because they are just really struggling. I mean, they're shot, and and even within games. I mean, the start of that game was fantastic. St Kilda moved the ball fluently. They kicked the ball to space. I think one of the commentators said it was a bit like Pagan's paddock. Rewalt ran twice into the space, kicked three first quarter goals.
Yeah.
He was brilliant. And then after that, they just couldn't get their hands on it. St Kilda, they were just outplayed from quarter time onwards. And you've got to give credit to where credit's due, and Hawthorn were very good.
We've sort of touched on this in the last few weeks, but the spirit among the senior players just seems to have gone. There's this really strong bond that the players had among each other, and it was a bit, I suppose, reminiscent a bit of the Kangas in your time, where players used to socialise together and be very close. That just seems to have disappeared.
Look, I don't know. You'd have to be down there, a bit closer to the action to know whether that's the case or not. They're certainly not playing great team footy at the moment. They've got players terribly out of form, and I do feel for Nick Riewoldt, because you can just see how hard he's trying as captain of that club to will the side over the line. You can see how hard he works.
Yeah.
I feel terribly sorry for him. But I think Ross Lyon said you'd probably have to say, I don't think they're totally out of making the 8, but you'd have to say it's going to be very difficult from here, and depending on the way they want to work things, they may not even want to make the 8 this year, in terms of they just might really want to develop some more young kids.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's been an amazing turnaround, because I honestly thought the Saints would be in the top 4, no doubt.
Yes. Look, we should talk also today about the death of Bob Davis, one of the game's great characters, who I think you had a bit to do with at Channel 7 and others. We should acknowledge his passing. Former Geelong Premiership coach and one of Channel 7's great characters. Did you know him reasonably well?
Yeah, not too bad. Condolences to all his family. Obviously, he was a real character. Had a little bit to do with him on TV, and he didn't know what he was going to quite come out with, and he was a good guy to be around. You always had a smile on your face, so you'll remember him for that.
Yeah. Let's look ahead to round 9. Some really good games in the upcoming fixture. Carlton and Geelong kick things off on Friday night. The game's scheduled at Etihad Stadium, which is a bit of a shame, because they probably would have got double the crowd at the MCG, wouldn't they? Yeah,
well, look, now in hindsight, you'd probably say yes, but look, it makes it a fantastic. The weather hasn't been great, so that's another blockbuster. The Blues are in very good form. The Cats unbeaten. This is a huge game. Look, I think Carlton have certainly shown that they've improved from last year and the year before.
Yep.
They're definitely playing some very, very exciting footy. So I'll be tuning in on Friday night.
It's their defence, which was once their Achilles heel, which seems to have improved enormously.
Yeah, look, and I know everyone says it on every show, but it's not just the defence anymore. It's team defence. It's everyone doing their bit. And at the moment they're doing that, as is Geelong. So that's why this is and that's where Geelong have improved their defensive skills as well. So that makes it a really good contest.
Yep. Your old buddy Jonathan Brown looks like he'll be welcomed back this week by Brisbane after 6 or 7 weeks on the sidelines with injury. Have you had a chance to speak to him lately?
I haven't seen him or spoken to him, no. But he, poor old Kangas get the week. Brisbane haven't won a game, and Jonathan Brown comes back. So, look, he's what a lot of people don't realise is Jonathan Brown's endurance is incredible. He has every bit the endurance that Nick Riewoldt has. So, okay, he had a sore jaw and stuff, but he would have been training his off, and he's a great athlete. So, I don't think it'll take him too much to come back in and get straight back into things if he does play.
But you couldn't expect him to sort of first game back after such a long layoff to be in dominant form, could you?
Look, I think, like I said, it's not like it's been an arm or a leg. It's been a jaw, face injury. So he's been able to he's been able to keep his skills, his running and all that type of stuff. He would have been doing that for a little while now. So I would expect him to come back in and perform at a reasonable level.
And the last one we should talk about, dream time at the G. Richmond and Essendon. This game kind of has been a bit of a fizzer in recent years because both teams have been at the bottom rungs of the ladder. But this time round, I mean, that should be a cracker on Saturday night.
Yeah, another good game. Like you said, I think all of these sides of all of the powerhouse sides of the competition, and you put Richmond in there, have all improved, and the Tigers have certainly done that, and we know what the Bombers are doing. So, yeah, another good game. It seems that there are more good games every weekend these days, and I think last year was a great year. But I think this year, once again, we're seeing with the improvement of the sides underneath, we've got more big games every weekend. And there's 2 or 3 again this weekend that I'll be tuning into.
Will you get along to any?
May do. See what happens.
All right, Carey, thanks again for your thoughts, and we look forward to seeing you next week on BackPageLead.
Thanks, Charlie.